This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Welcome to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host, Zach Moore, and today I'm joined by Mr. Brandon Shea Matella. What's up, Brandon? Meow. Are you a rat or a cat or a dog or a jaguar? It's all very confusing.
All of the above.
For a second there, I thought we were going to talk about the Star Trek episode with these cats. What is it with sci-fi and not just like saber-tooth tigers? I'm talking like house cats. Like, what is the deal with science fiction shows and house cats being like a villain of the week? What's that all about?
Well, cats are the most ferocious and frightening animals of all.
Yes, thank you, Spock.
As Spock told us, yes.
So this week we're talking about the infamous Teso Dos Bichos, what is widely considered one of the worst episodes of the X-Files. And, Brandon and I think we're in agreement on this, aren't we, Brandon?
Shapes is better.
Shapes is better. Brandon and I have an ongoing in-joke, or whatever you want to call it, about the quality of Shapes. He loves it. I hate it. But Shapes is better than this. I 100% agree with you. We are in agreement there, sir.
The funny thing is, I haven't seen this episode in a really long time, and I don't remember it being this bad, and I watched it this time, and I'm just like, what is this? What happened? What did I just watch? And I had to watch it a second time, and the second time I watched it, I was like, what is this? What happened? What did I just watch? And yeah, so it was it's not great.
We aren't the only ones who don't like this episode. Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny are often cited as saying this one is one of their least favorites, and Kim Manners, who directed this episode, hated it as well. Although it was apparently one of the most highly rated episodes, viewer-wise, of the third season. So, but what are you going to do,
People like cats?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm more of a dog person. Are you a cat or a dog person?
Definitely dog. Cats are evil.
Me too, which is another reason I don't like this episode, because they kill a dog. What are you doing? Do you know what Teso Dos Bichos means?
It means, give me the sandwich.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's Portuguese, and it means burial mound of small animals. So
okay,
but yeah, this is a whole level of, is it so bad it's good? I say no. I say it's so bad it's bad, and we're gonna delve into that in our conversation here today. Teso Dos Bichos is the 18th episode of the X-Files third season. It aired on March 8th, 1996, was written by John Sheehan and directed by Kim Manners. And IMDb gives it a 6.1 out of 10. And IMDb, if you get a 6.1 out of 10, that is bad. Because,
is it?
Because IMDb, it's a 10 scale, right? But it's really like about from 5 to 9.5. Like, there is nothing really under 5 unless it's like awful, and there's really nothing far above a 9. So if you're at a 6, you're on the low end of IMDb ratings. But here on the X-Cast, you rate things 1 to 10. So Brandon, I ask you, on the 1 to 10 scale, what would you give Teso Dos Bichos?
So over on the Trek FM network, I'm known as like kind of one of the optimistic people, and I tend to try and find the good in things. But after this one here, I'm giving this thing a solid 1.
Excellent.
Yeah.
1 is my rating as well.
Yeah, like, this one was a tough one to watch, and we'll get into, like, there are some interesting things that I like about it. I'm a big fan of Mark Snow's music, and I like his ethnic Indian music that he does, and that woodwind, that iwi that he uses, that electronic woodwind. I like that sound a lot, so, I find that when he uses that type of music in these episodes, it's quite effective, but that's my opinion. And I Mark Snow is usually hitting a home run for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and he does all the music on Smallville.
No, he doesn't.
Which is
He
my
does some
favorite
of the music
show.
on Smallville.
He does the first 5 seasons. Okay, give me a break, Brandon. Gosh.
I don't even watch the show, and I know that.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Smallville. We're here to talk about the X-Files. And, this episode starts out with they're in Teso Dos Bichos, and it's in the title screen there. Ecuador. They're at it's kind of like Jurassic Park, right? Where I'm giving this episode way too much credit, but it's like this archaeological dig that's going on. And someone's like, we found something. And you're like, oh, cool, what's it going to be? But it takes us a long time to even find what this is. They really kind of bury the lead, I think, on what they find.
It's like a head. It's a skull in a clay pot, right? And which I have a problem with, which we'll talk about in a little bit with this clay pot head thing. But it's quite nicely placed in there, that head, don't you think?
Well, it was a burial pot, is my understanding of it. But my question is, how would you fit a person inside a pot, right?
Well, maybe it was mauled by the cat, and they had to just throw the body parts in there.
Or maybe it's like maybe they chopped this person up and put them into this pot. Because really all we see is a skull. I don't know how many more remains are in there, but all the, for lack of a better term, the natives are very concerned about this. They say it's the body of a shaman, and they say we cannot disturb it. And the lead doctor, Dr. Roosevelt, this just old kind of looks like the typical people you see breaking into King Tut's too, in the old days. He's like, no, we're going to take it back. We're saving this. We're going to preserve it. And the other doctor, Dr. Belak, he's kind of in between. He's like, I don't know, these people, he's like the translator guy. He's like, I don't know. He takes it seriously. The other guy does not. But he's not in charge. Roosevelt is.
Yeah, see, this Roosevelt, I mean, he's the stereotypical white dude that you see in a movie who's just like, I'm white and I don't care about any of you Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so he pays it no mind because he's going to get this back, and it's an archaeological discovery, right? So then we cut to that night, and we see all of the. Again, I hate to use the term natives, but I don't know how else to describe them.
Portuguese.
I mean, it's Central America, so they can be Native Americans. So, see, X-Files is very hit or miss when it deals with Native American culture. I think episodes like Blessing Way and Paperclip do it pretty well. Episodes like this and Shapes. Not so much. So this is...
Hey, Shapes is awesome.
All right. It's more awesome than this. I've given you that already, okay? Isn't that enough? So they're sitting around. They're not smoking the peace pipe. They're drinking the peace goo.
Yahe.
Which is vine of the gods, as they say, right?
Yeah, it looks like green slime.
What is it?
I don't know, but whatever it is potent.
Yeah.
That guy takes a sip, and he is messed up. No drug takes effect that quickly.
Yeah,
he literally takes a sip and he's putting the spoon down and he's like, "Whoa, man, you're crazy,
man.
I
like it, but you're crazy."
He's like that guy on Old School where he shoots himself.
Yes, Will Ferrell in Old School.
Got a dart in your neck, man. Got a dart in your neck. You're crazy. You're crazy, man.
So he gets what I'm going to refer to as cat vision. Right.
Okay.
As he's looking around, I guess that's what they're trying to tell us, because he's looking around the circle. He sees cat vision.
I think we should call it Yahe vision.
Okay, Yahe vision. There you go. He gets Yahe vision.
Yahe
Great.
TV.
But everyone else is also taking this Yahe, right? I mean, that's what they're passing around. Everybody's taking a spoonful. So I guess since he's not a native guy there, he's not accustomed to it. It's the first time they've done it. I can only assume.
Man, we totally need to do a song for Mary Poppins. Just a spoonful of Yahe helps the kitty go down.
You can do that.
Okay.
There's a lead shaman guy here. He's played by Gordon Tatusis, and I made note of this because he actually appears in Smallville in a couple episodes where they deal with Native American culture as well, playing pretty much the same kind of character, although he's more of a professor of Native American history in Smallville, but kind of an elder statesman of Native Americans, right? He serves that same role, and that's what he's doing here. We see him in a couple scenes here at the beginning, and then he comes back around at the end and kind of bookends the episode. He's kind of leading this whole thing.
Yeah.
But then then we see the Yahweh vision kind of like going through the grass, and it catches up to the tent where Roosevelt is. And this was a very effective X-Files opening kill right here.
Yes, it was.
Where we see a shadow of a jaguar, and then we see blood spatter all over the tent, and because we're on the outside of the tent, and we see what's going on inside the tent. We see Roosevelt kind of come up to the side of the tent. He's like pushed up against it, streaks down it with blood. That is how you start an episode of the X-Files.
Yes, I would agree with that. So like there are some stuff that's good in it. It's just that it really becomes a train wreck at the end.
So then we cut to the museum 3 weeks later.
Right. Now this is where I have a problem, okay? So we're going to get into it in a little bit. So 3 weeks later, okay? And like in a little bit we see, what is that woman's name?
Mona.
Mona. Okay, Mona is like working on that urn. And she's like, she's taking tools out because she wants to take out the skull or whatever. In 3 weeks, they have made no progress on excavating this thing.
You have to be very, very, very delicate with these matters, Brent. Have you ever tried to excavate an urn, a skull from an urn? That's a great point. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have trouble excavating carrots out of my garden, right? But, I mean, like, still, like, this is... I don't know. Like, we're not there yet. I mean, it's like 10 or 15 minutes into the episode when we see her doing that. But still, it's like there's a 3-week gap in here, and then they have the urn, and, like, they've made no progress on, like, taking this skull out.
It did kind of remind me of Shapes at the beginning when we first see the museum, because we see, like, the taxidermized jaguar, right? It reminds me of getting Shapes when there's, like, a thunderstorm. You see the taxidermized, like, bear and wolf and all that stuff, so... I'm already getting Shapes vibes. X-Files and animals. They just it's a bad combination. Shapes,
elephants that are invisible.
Yes. What's the symmetry?
Fearful
I was on that
Symmetry.
episode. I forget. Fearful Symmetry. That was garbage. That's a garbage episode. And this one is not good either.
Fearful Symmetry is better than this.
Maybe. It's tough. It's tough. But I think I gave that one a 1 as well. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and listen to my scores. But anyway, so X-Files and animals.
Sophie.
And the guest stars in that one were bad. Also, in this episode, the guest stars are bad, but we'll get into that. So the security guard's kind of going through the dark museum, right? And he sees like a pool of blood. I thought, there's going to be a dead body or something, right? But no, there wasn't. I was kind of confused, and they show up and they're talking about, where's the body? I'm like, what do you mean? There wasn't a body in the shadows or something? I just kind of assumed there would be, right?
Yes, and it's interesting. I love the X-Files and the faces they get. We've seen this guy quite a few times on the X-Files. Like, he was in The Host as the sewer dude, right?
Oh!
Like,
was he?
Yeah, I love that guy. Like, he's great.
Okay.
He shows up quite often on the X-Files. And
He was a familiar face. Yeah, the security guy.
yeah, so, I don't know. That's what I love about the X-Files is some of the extras that they get for, like, the small roles are just great-looking people.
They're memorable
faces,
yeah.
memorable people.
Yeah.
So
it's the people of Canada. You guys got great people up there.
yeah, it got a great country, eh?
So they're Mulder and Scully show up, and you think to yourself, how do they even get in this situation, right? Because what's X-Files about it?
Yeah, with no body.
But yeah, so it's like there's you see some blood and a missing body. Like, what is this about? But we have some exposition from Scully saying that there had been a petition from one of the doctors who had been working with the museum to the State Department or something, which makes it a federal thing. And I guess that's them explaining how Mulder and Scully got in on this via the FBI.
Yeah, but that still doesn't quite work for me because it's still not paranormal at that point. Like, if it's like, look, we want to send this urn back. Okay, that's an X-File? Question mark?
I guess. It's like X-Files is like stuff that no one else wants to deal with as well.
Yeah.
It's paranormal stuff. It's like, stick Spooky on that. Spooky and the Redhead, put them on that. What's her name? Anyway, they don't even know. But Mulder has a theory already about all this, right? He's like, there's a ghost cat. He's done his research and he's prepared. And, of course, Scully doesn't believe him. And we already have set up the whole, like, okay, there's something... there is a quote-unquote precedent for this in history that Mulder has researched and decided that that's what's going on here. Maybe he used his connections to get on the case because of that. I don't know. But then we meet Mona, the assistant we mentioned earlier, and she takes Mulder and Scully to the urn with the skull, and she agrees with them. She's like, we shouldn't be messing with this. We should send this back. Maybe that's why, Brandon. Maybe that's why she hasn't really taken the skull out, because
she's been delaying it. She's like, I don't want to do this, so she's just taking a grain out at a time.
Still, it's a slow... archaeology is a slow process.
Yeah, I'm going to pause on that complaint of mine, because I know that there would have been, like, transportation time and stuff, but still. Mm-hmm. Like, to get it from Portugal or wherever it was, like Puerto Rico or wherever to here. I know that there's transportation time, but still. Ecuador, thank you. But to have no progress on it, I don't know.
But through their conversations... we hear about Dr. Belak, who we'd seen in the teaser, and Mulder and Scully go to his home because he had been on the project and he's not. He wrote the letters of protest, so he's become a person of interest in this disappearance at this point. That's what they're looking for. And wow, this guy, right? He's kind of like a TV version of Oscar Isaac, but also some Antonio Banderas, and he's a really bad overactor.
Yeah, he had
I did not like him at all.
Weird accent.
I literally laughed out loud a few times. He was talking. He was just saying his lines. He was like, "I'm like, are you trying really hard, man? Is this just how you talk? I don't know, but I just tone it down a little bit."
Yeah, it was a weird choice because he wasn't really talking like that at the beginning, I don't think.
Right. It's the more and more he unravels, the more ridiculous he gets. Maybe that was his thinking, the actor's approach to the situation. But he's clearly being set up as the person who perpetrated this because they have no other leads right now, and he used to work on the project. They're walking around his house. They see how he was at the dig and all that, and he talks about how he lived with the people and he thinks it should be sent back. And Mulder kind of thinks he has his suspicions that this guy has a supernatural story to tell us, because Scully's like, tell us what happened. And he's like, you guys don't want to hear what I have to say. And Mulder's like, I'm very interested in what you have to say. And he sits down right next to him on the couch. But yeah, this is suspect one, and then they leave, and I really like their conversation at the car. Scully's like, well, I think he's our suspect, and Mulder's like, I don't know, Scully. Why do you say that? And they kind of go back and forth there, and Mulder explains the whole myth of the Jaguar and stuff again, and she of course scoffs at it, but he's like, go with it, Scully, and he says that a couple times in this episode. I wonder if that's like a David Duchovny ad lib or what, but that was, of anything in this episode, I really liked the quote, go with it, Scully. That could be like the mission statement of the X-Files, I think, right?
See, and I kind of felt that was weird, and it didn't seem quite right in character for me. So I just attributed
why you say
to the
that?
writing. I don't know. I know that I don't know. It just didn't seem like he would say that to her. I don't think Mulder would say that to her. I know that he's joking and he's fun and he always has a line, right? But go with it, Scully, just seemed not quite right. It didn't ring true.
Well, and it got repeated, which is why that just struck me as like, oh, are you trying to make this a thing? Is this going to be a new catchphrase? But I don't think it caught on after this episode. That's why I think maybe it was a Duchovny kind of ad lib, and they liked it and they left it in.
See, and that's why I would attribute it more to the writing, is because it never stuck around. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's not quite trust no one. Not quite the truth is out there. That should have been at the opening credits, right? Instead of trust no one, it should have been go with it, Scully. So yeah, and, that's them pleading for us to go with the episode. I'm like, all right, we're okay so far. A little questionable here and there, but I'm still on board at this point. Nothing's gone too ridiculous. Nothing's gone too insane. It seems like a pretty standard wind-up for an X-Files story right now. But then we come back to the hospital, and Mona is on the phone with Dr. Belak, and she's like, oh, why did you lie to them? Because they asked him where he was, and he says he was home alone. You don't know what he lied about, whatever, but you know that he wasn't entirely honest with them, and you know that they have some kind of personal connection she hasn't shared with them either. And then the other museum guy shows up, Dr. Luton, and he's the guy that had talked to Mulder and Scully earlier at the hospital, and he was under it's his theory this is some kind of political assassination or statement or something. Like they attacked and kidnapped the people at the hospital people at the museum in order to force them to send the urn back. And he's like, we're not sending that back.
Right. We gotta keep this for knowledge,
for science.
For science, yeah. We gotta show these people how to treat their artifacts.
Well, I did. I'll say this about this scene. I did like how he kind of opens the door and he sees her talking on the phone, but he kind of lets her finish her conversation, and he doesn't immediately hey, what are you doing? That, because you see that on TV all the time. That's stupid. If you want to get information from people, don't immediately announce your presence. So I do give him a little credit there.
Yes, yeah, and then he offers his own advice. He's like, to her, you're a talented person, and just don't pick the wrong side.
Be smart on where you plant your flag.
Yeah.
I think is that's what he says. But then he leaves, and she's in the room by herself at this point, and you kind of hear something.
Yeah, this is where the episode loses me.
And then you see the door open. You're like, oh, what's it gonna be? And it's Sugar, the dog, the museum dog. Every museum needs a dog, right? So this dog lives at the museum.
Yeah, as soon as this happens, I'm like, oh,
stupid fake out.
Yeah,
it's gonna be one of those.
They're gonna do that, are they? Oh, they shouldn't have done that.
The fake out again with the animals, and I love dogs, but it's like, why are you? I like, as soon as that dog showed up, I was like, this dog is not gonna survive this episode. There was no other reason for this dog to be in this museum setting other than to die. But she has a dog named Sugar that apparently lives with her at the museum. Apparently,
there's only been one animal in like any movie or TV show that's ever scared me and got me, and that's in Alien when Harry Dean Stanton's character's like down around and then Jonesy like hisses. That's
right.
Not anymore after I've seen it a bunch, but I mean the first time I saw that, oh man, that got me for sure.
Again, science fiction, house cat.
Cats.
What is the obsession? I
don't know. They make good food.
Is there a cat? Are there any cats in? Oh my God.
They run out of food. They can eat the cat. I don't know.
Are there any cats in Battlestar Galactica? I can't remember.
I have no idea. I'm not sure.
Anyway, Dr. Luton goes out to his Jaguar. You get it, guys? Like this is where they have like the dog was like, okay, fine. You fake me out with one jump scare or whatever, right? Don't do it again. Of course, they do it many times. But then we go out to this car. This is where the episode just annoyed the hell out of me. I was like, you get it? Like, here's a really close tied-up shot of the hood ornament of his Jaguar.
Okay, I liked that, okay? Yeah, it's cheesy that it's a Jaguar, but that shot is a very X-Files shot. To have, like, a close-up on something with something crazy going on, either off-screen or out of focus or whatever.
Yeah, just like Shapes, where they had the drink on the deck and the werewolf was killing his dad. Yeah, I knew you were gonna like it because of that.
Yeah, right. But that's not the only time they've done it. But I mean, like, that's kind of a really X-Files type of shot,
Well, we start with it there, and then we come back to it at the end when he's being killed. But he tries to start his car. It won't start. He gets out. He looks under the hood. He's like, "What? What is this?" There's like blood inside his hood. But then we see the what's the Yahweh, the Yahweh vision, kind of going up to him, right? And then he gets pulled under the car, and we don't see what happens to him, but he's being killed, and it's awful.
Oh, was he? I couldn't tell. I didn't see, so I wasn't sure.
Well, I mean, I assume he's being killed. I don't know, because we have a tight shot of this stupid Jaguar head ornament. I don't know what's going on. So we just end on that,
Right.
And
then now we get my buddy Don, who walks by. Like, so I got my friend Don. I don't remember his last name, but he's in Vancouver, and he was an extra on a lot of TV shows. And like, so the next shot is like morning, and you see a couple people walk by out of focus, and he's got like brown hair and a ponytail. I think he's wearing a brown jacket in this, and he's looking kind of away from the camera. But that's my friend Don. You see him in the pilot episode of Millennium as well, right at in the teaser when they're like in that strip club, and he walks towards the camera when the other guy's walking away. And that's my buddy Don.
So does he try to be an extra on these shows up there? Is that
that was his job? He was an extra, so he would just be an extra on lots of stuff. He's been in a lot of them episodes, but that's the one where I can see him the most is in this one, and then in the pilot episode for Millennium.
Oh, what a proud distinction to be in Teso Dos Bichos.
I know him because in Vancouver they've got a nude beach called Wreck Beach, and he actually sells like tie-dyed clothing. So if you go down to Wreck Beach, there's a guy who's got like tank tops that have like the Wreck Beach logo on it, and they're all tie-dyed. He tie-dyes them himself and stuff like that, and yeah, that's Don.
All right, well, all of our Canadian listeners, be sure to go to Wreck Beach. Get yourself a tie-dye shirt from Don, the extra from Teso Dos Bichos. If I were him, I bet my T-shirt stand called Teso Dos Bichos. It sounds cool, out of context.
And it means bring me the sandwich.
Yeah, yes, that's what it means. So they're going through the car, Scully and one of the cops is, and they find partial rat body parts in the car, which is really confusing because this is the first time we have any inclination of rats being involved. We were thinking cats, but apparently we were one letter off. It's rats. Right,
yeah. I remember watching it again. I knew this was the cat episode, and then I'm like, oh, this is where they find the dead cat, and they're like, rats. I'm like, what? Oh, yes. Okay.
Was there a typo in the script and nobody changed it? like it's like rats. So, no, it's cats. But Scully goes out in the woods with Mulder. Mulder and the rest of the cops are searching for the body because, again, there's no body. There's just blood, and that they assume the worst, but that they can't confirm anything. So they're walking around in the woods and they're looking up in the trees and whatnot. And this is when Scully tells Mulder that it looks like the reason his car couldn't start was because there were rats that had crawled into the hood of the car. And that's a really lame, like, realistic, not mystical explanation, which is disappointing. But I guess it tracks, huh?
Yes, but if his car wouldn't start, why are they all torn up body parts?
Because they squeeze themselves to death crawling too tight into the... I don't know, man. I didn't write this episode, but yeah, I didn't think about
like
that.
if the car,
because, yeah.
let's say there where the fan belt is,
Uh-huh.
right, and there's like a fan in there or whatever, right, with blades. You know, if it starts and runs and chops them all up and then gets, you know, rat leg stuck in there or whatever, well, okay, but the car like wouldn't even start. So
you're saying it should have like started like, you know, we should have heard some ruckus going on.
yeah,
And then that would have made
Yeah.
sense. Okay, I follow you. That's logical. I agree.
it's not the weakest thing in the episode.
There were so many other inconsistencies that one just got me by. But that's a great point. But so as for now, there's nothing suspicious about it. At least the car, because you know the disappearance is suspicious, but the car not starting isn't. Well, I think we both we're supposed to have assumed that the mystical Jaguar stopped the car from starting. Right? It's the classic, you know, ghost stopping machines from working. I don't know.
Yes,
But while they're out in the woods, they look up in a tree. And what do they find in that tree, Brandon?
they find ketchup.
They find an intestine wrapped around a tree branch.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That
disgusting.
scene when Mulder's like, "Oh, it must be raining," like that's pretty effective. Okay,
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
that's unique. You haven't seen anything like that before. And Scully's like, "No, that's not rain. It's red." And they look up and find the intestines. Okay, that's pretty creepy and
My God, Scully, it's raining blood. One of the 10 plagues. So yeah, no, that is a cool, creepy X-Files moment that's just be much better served in a better episode. But then we come back to Mona, and she has gone to Dr. Belloq's house, Dr. Belloq, whatever, his house, and either the door's unlocked or she has a key or what. Something's going on between these guys, I don't know. But she comes in, it's pitch black in there except for a fire, right? And she's going to go turn a light on, and he comes out of the shower. She's like, no, don't. And he's really starting to deteriorate. He looks like hell, doesn't he?
yeah. And she's like gets mad at him because he's drinking this yahe, and it's like, is he just making this yahe or can he just order it on Amazon?
Well, okay, like, that's what I was going to say. Like, what is it? Because she's like, what are you doing? She's like so like angry at him for using this paste or whatever. It's like, does she know what this is and we don't? I don't know. She's just so disgusted that he's doing this, and it seems like a terrible thing. I don't know.
Well, so here's what I get out of this. So because she knows what it is, she can look at it and say, "You're drinking yahe," and she's mad at him for it. She clearly has more knowledge of the situation than the average person does. Like, she knows these people, she knows their customs. If she can look at this stuff and knows that it's yahe and knows that it's a psychotropic drug. Okay, so this is why she's a little bit more afraid, because she's aware of the cultural beliefs, right? She has this knowledge. Maybe at one point she was down there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like, so she's definitely got more knowledge of the situation than most of the other people involved.
But she does. She just tried to help him. She's like, "Look, let me help you." He's like, "No, get out!" He kicks her out and stuff. And at this point, I guess again the episode is leading on this red herring to make you think, because being genre fans, we're supposed to think that he's turning into a jaguar and killing people, right? Is that what we're supposed to think at this point as an audience member?
Oh, are we?
I don't know. What did you think at this point?
I didn't even know what was going on because the rats threw me off. I'm like, I thought that was cats. It's like, this doesn't work on a rewatch because I'm like, I just watched this and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? So,
well, I mean, he looks really shady.
yes.
He's using this drug that he used that we last saw, down south of the border, and when we saw that drug used, Jaguar went and killed somebody, right? And he's obviously just, I don't know what his deal is. Something's wrong with this dude. I don't know if it's just the drug use or what. I don't know what he's trying to achieve by using these drugs. I don't know how that's going to help. He says he's going to like stop the curse because the shaman can't be appeased or something, and yet, I don't get why him doing these drugs is going to help.
He's got scurvy. He needs some vitamin C.
Needs some sunlight too. Probably needs to change his clothes. He's probably hadn't changed clothes in like a week or something, It's like, anyway. It's so he does not look well, and I think what they're trying to do, obviously, they're trying to frame him. As Scully has pegged him as the main suspect. They're like, look, this guy is trouble. I don't know what's going on here, but he is somehow connected to these jaguars attacking and dragging people away. To what end, we do not yet know. But meanwhile, Scully is doing an autopsy on the intestine, which I thought was pretty funny.
And they weren't even cut up.
Yeah, it's just laying.
They're just laying there, right? So she's like, we determined. Okay, so we determined who it was based on what he ate. And I think she said corn chowder or something like this. So what did she do? Did she pick up that intestine and like squeeze out what was in there,
out,
and then stuff it back in, because that was like a sausage, like it was stuffed, right?
Disgusting.
So I don't know.
But then they determined that it had rat bites on it.
Yes.
Which, again, is like, what? I thought it was cats. Like, I'm telling you, I bet it was a typo. It was a typo somewhere.
It's a typo that didn't get caught.
It was a great misunderstanding. This is before word processing, so they just rolled with it. But I don't know. But again, the rats is confusing, because I was like, well, I thought it was, like you, I thought it was cats. But why they're in this autopsy room? Oh, and I do want to mention this. She says there are lots of sunflower seeds in his intestines.
Yes.
And Mulder's like, ooh, man of taste, because, as we know, Mulder is a big sunflower seed fan.
Right.
It's a disgusting habit, by the way. Have you ever chew sunflower seeds?
When I eat them, I eat when they're already hulled. And as a matter of fact, I just had some before I came down for podcasting. I was just eating some seeded or some shelled sunflower seeds.
Have you seen Ace Ventura?
That's the one where he comes out of the rhino butt?
That's the second one. In the first Ace Ventura, him and Courtney Cox are like in an office, and they've called him in to kind of investigate this dolphin being stolen from Miami Dolphins. And he starts eating. He's watching this videotape, and he's eating sunflower seeds. Right? He's eating them. He's spitting them out like on the desk, and it's gross. It's like he's just putting them out like his arm on the desk, and she's like, "Do you want an ashtray?" And he says, "No, I don't smoke. It's a disgusting habit." It says he's covered in all these sunflower seeds. Anyway, that's probably why because I saw that at a young age. It's probably when I never got into sunflower seeds. I mean, I played baseball. Everybody's passing around sunflower seeds. I'm like, no, thank you. I'll just chew on this gum. Thank you very much. But anyway, Mona gives Scully a call, because earlier she said, if you think of anything, give me a call. Maybe she gave her a card. I don't really recall. But Mona calls Scully. Says that she went to Dr. Bielik's house. He was threatening. She felt concerned about his attitude and his behavior. So she's like, okay, I'm sending Agent Mulder over right now. And she hangs up. And then we see Sugar, the dog, barking at nothing. So we're like, is this a ghost, right? Is there a jaguar going to pop out of somewhere, right? But no, she goes down the hallway. Mona and Sugar go down the hallway in search of this sound, I guess. And she goes in the women's restroom, and then everything, like, the sink starts shaking, the toilet starts shaking. You're like, what is this going to be?
And you find out there's a bunch of cats in the toilet.
Yeah, I thought it's like, okay, the cats are finally going to come out, right? Because this episode, everybody knows it for the cats, and you keep waiting these damn cats, and it keeps being rats. It's like, damn it, it's a typo. I said cats. But these cats erupt out of all the sinks, all the toilets. It's disgusting. She, like, freaks out. I'll ask you this, though. Do rats freak you out? I mean,
they're ugly. I mean, I've never really encountered them. I've encountered a few mice in my life, but I mean,
right.
I haven't encountered rats. I mean, the extent of my rat knowledge comes from like Pixar cartoons. So,
well, I mean, I think about Indiana Jones, the trilogy, right? Because there's only 3. The first one, there's snakes. Okay, snakes. I get it. The reptiles that can bite you, venomous.
Bad, man. Okay, it's canon.
That's not what I meant. You know it. The next one is Temple of Doom. Bugs, disgusting. Right, bugs gross me out like nothing else. Like spiders, roaches, whatever. Like that's gross. And then the third film, The Last Crusade, they escalated with rats. I'm like, really? Like that's the escalation is all out of order. I think. I mean, rats. I mean, they caused the Black Plague, so I guess there is some danger to them. But if I saw a bunch of rats, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, it's the worst thing in the world. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
What about the ants?
I don't know what you're talking about. So Mulder finally shows up at the museum.
Okay, well, and, has Scully talked to him yet? To Bielak?
No.
Okay,
This. I was going to say this. So she sends Mulder to the museum, and she's going to go talk to him by herself. That's a stupid call.
Yeah. So is this the point where she's talking to Bielak?
No, because she she doesn't talk to him until they find him at the museum. She just got a call from somebody to say, hey, this guy is dangerous and I'm worried about him like hurting me. So she's like, okay, well, I'll send Mulder to go to the museum with you and the security guard, and I'll go to his house by myself. It's like, Scully, that is a bad move. This is why you get kidnapped so often.
Do you not
Scully.
remember Dwayne Barry?
Yeah, yeah. That was just like a year ago. I mean, that happens a lot to her.
Yes.
And sometimes their own fault, sometimes not.
Do you not
But
remember
definitely
the
this one
cannibals
is
from
their own
our
fault.
town?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly a very similar situation. So, fortunately for her, nobody's home. The door's open. The fire at this point is dead. Like, the place is pitch black. But she finds the Yahe and is immediately disgusted by it, you know?
Yes. Which it probably doesn't smell very good. I mean, like, it doesn't look very good.
She's about as disgusted by it as Moda was by the rats, I guess. So.
Well, no, because Mona was screaming. Scully wasn't screaming at the Yahe.
Yahe coming out the toilet. That would make me scream. But meanwhile, Mulder goes to the museum, and he runs into the security guard. And he's like, what are you doing here? So the security guard asks him, he's like, we got a distress call from Mona. Where is she? And he's like, oh, she's down here in the office. And she's not.
Yeah, because, the rats probably took her.
It is very confusing. Like, she's out of the office. They go in the bathroom, and there's just blood everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, that's not good. Because Mulder, he's on the phone with Scully, and she's explaining that, okay, I'm at so-and-so's house, and he's been taking some kind of hallucinogen, and he's like, oh, no, I have to go. She's like, oh, is it Moda? He's like, I hope not, because it's a pile of blood, or puddle of blood. But when they go there's no sign of her.
Right.
Or the dog, by the way, which I'm more concerned about, frankly.
I don't know. They weren't that concerned about the dog at that point, though. They were more concerned about the person.
I'm more concerned about the dog.
Yes, I understand, but you're weird.
Well, yeah, her car is outside. They don't know where she is. There's no body anywhere, and they can't find her. So Mulder starts looking around, and who does he find but Dr. Belak, just kind of curled up in the corner.
Yes. Right. And then now is when Scully comes in, right?
Right. And Scully shows up at the museum.
Now, okay, so this didn't ring true to me for Scully's character, where she was all, like, mad at him and, like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about because you were high, and, like, just the way she's, like, judging and talking to him and stuff, like, that is not, like, an impartial investigator.
Well, she had been to his house, and she had read his journal and had determined he was trying to invoke this curse and he was doing these drugs, and he has been her prime suspect this entire time they've been on this case. So I can understand why she thinks he's going on this killing spree and lying to him about it. I mean, I understand her attitude.
I don't know. It just didn't ring. Yeah, it did not ring true for me. Didn't ring true to me.
Well, and then he also says that Mona's dead, right? But they're like, "Where's the body?" He's like, "Well, I don't know where it is."
Yes.
The shaman needs to be appeased. I tried to stop. Like, I don't understand what he is trying to do, because now obviously he's not the one, or as far as he's claimed. I guess they could have still gone in that direction. I guess, but if he turns into the Jaguar or something, if they still wanted to,
right.
But at this point, like, okay, if he's not the guy killing these people, then why is he so messed up? Why is he like in the shadows all the time? Why is he showing up in these suspicious times? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, the Yahe dilates his pupils, so he's really sensitive to light.
They leave him unattended in this room. Mulder and Scully got in the hallway or whatever, and they tell these cops, like, don't let him out of this room until this whole building is searched, right? But they leave him unattended in that room. That was a bad decision. They had two cops there. They should have left one cop inside, one cop outside, right?
Yeah, but that's a lot to expect of the police.
Well, why are they just leaving this guy in this room by himself? I just don't understand, I guess is he not a suspect at this point? Like, another woman has died. He's on the scene. He's telling you that she's dead, but he can't tell you why. And he has blood all over him, assumingly from her blood in the bathroom, I guess. That didn't make much sense either, actually, now I think about it.
Wasn't there, like, it's kind of like the episode Blood, I guess. They could have just locked him up in the room, and then he would have been, like, dead, I guess, like, because the guy in Blood had the sun on him and he, like, melted.
Oh, right.
So, like, if they locked him in the room and then he still would have...
Well, that's exactly what happened to him, right? Because they leave, they come back. I mean, to jump ahead for just a second, when they come back, he's been whisked away. But this is when he had the line that literally made me laugh out loud. I don't usually laugh out loud at stuff unless I find it ridiculous or very funny when I'm watching TV. But he says, "This is not something you can put in handcuffs." It's like, what? Really, bro, like you've been watching too much Ricardo Montalban. Like, tone it down, right?
This
he
accent
was really
was
trying
really
to sell
weird.
it. And you're right; it got more and more like intense. Like the accent and the way he spoke got more and more intense. The episode went on. And again, I'm gonna assume that was like a choice. Like I applaud him for, hey, you made a choice as an actor. Good for you. That was the wrong choice, but at least you brought something to it.
It was Ya Hinglish.
Yeah, there it is. Oh boy. But Mulder has gone back to the bathroom with Scully, and they're looking around. He's like, the brilliant deductive genius that Mulder is. He's determined that all the toilets have overflown because there's water everywhere, And they go and they flip the lid on a toilet. It's always a very dangerous thing to flip the lid on a public toilet. You don't know what you're going to find in there. So I understand this trepidation. And they open the lid, and what do we find, Brandon?
Cats.
No, it's freaking rats again.
Jeez,
It's
man,
like,
when am I going to get this right?
Where are the cats?
Where are the cats?
Donde está los gatos? Okay, where are the cats?
You know what? We could sing another song here. But there are no cats in Teso Dos Bichos, and the streets are filled with cheese. Have you never seen An
You can
American
do that.
Tail?
I've seen Five Goes West. I haven't seen the first one.
Dude. That
More of a Land Before Time guy myself.
that joke killed for people who have seen American Tail.
Somewhere out there.
Yes!
I know that song. I know that from Community, because they sing it in Community, because they have a rat and they name him Fievel.
There you go.
So, anyway. So much pop culture references we're sharing with people today. I hope you guys enjoy that. That's our thing. We enjoy it.
And we have an album coming out, too.
Well, we're going to plug that at the end of the episode. So, dead rats, not cats, but more dead rats in the toilets and the sinks and all that. Then apparently they find Sugar the dog. I guess that's the whole reason this dog existed was not just for a jump scare, but also to like be a crucial clue to everything. Because I guess there's a veterinarian who did an autopsy on the dog.
Good thing he was there.
Like, where did this guy come from? Like Mulder and Scully just walk into some office. He's like, "Oh yeah, looks like he died from rat poisoning." And they're like, "Someone fed this dog rat poisoning?" They're like, "No, looks like he ate a cat, and that cat had eaten a rat, and that rat eaten rat poisoning." I'm like, wow, that is... Why would this dog just randomly eat a cat? Like dogs and cats don't get along, but they're usually not going to eat it.
Yeah,
right?
so I got a question here. Okay, so the dog died from rat poison, but like the cat would have died from rat poison, so did this dog eat a dead cat?
Just go with it, Scully.
Well, at least we got our
I
cat.
mean, yeah.
We got a cat.
Right. I mean, so, but again, like, it had nothing to do with Mona being taken in the bathroom, right? Like, you thought, oh, the Jaguar's going to kill them both or something, right? Or whatever it is, right?
Is this still a good episode at this point?
No, we're way... we're way past that. I think the Jaguar hood ornament is what did it for me. But anyway. Subtlety. Come on, X-Files. So... Mulder starts to do his classic Mulder theories, and he explains to Scully, look, these rats that were trying to escape from something, right? And she's like, well, it's an old building, Mulder. There's lots of rats everywhere. I'm like, what's that? Yeah, just hordes of rats coming out. But he was saying they weren't trying to get in, they were trying to get out, and something is deep in the sewers, and they're scared of it, and that's why they're coming out of toilets and sinks and apparently crawling into cars for that same reason.
Legit. I buy it.
Let's go with it, Scully. This is where he says it the second time, by the way, at the end of this theory. So, Bielik is gone. He's gone. The cop says no one left that room. He was in front of the door the whole time. They look around the room. They find Mulder again being the master detective, Fox Mulder. He sees that like a table has been like dragged across the floor, so he traces that back to a wall. There's a hidden vent, and Belak had at first they think, oh, maybe he escaped down the heat here air duct, but they see blood everywhere and they think, oh, it looks like he was dragged, so it looks like he's dead too.
Yeah, but they don't find his body right away.
Well, they don't find any of these bodies right away.
Right.
But I mean, you just assume they're all dead, So Mulder and Scully they go into the sewer.
This is the best line in the episode where he's like, "Ladies first."
And she's like, But yeah, as Mulder and Scully drop to new depths, the episode itself drops to new depths because we're in the sewer here, and we start seeing some more Yahweh vision. Yahweh, excuse me. Yeah, Yahweh is very different. Yahweh. There's a difference. Some Yahweh vision. And then we see this like really, really tight close up of an eye. And I'm like, are they trying to make us think this is a jaguar eye? Because this is clearly a house cat. This is clearly a house cat. You're not gonna fool me. And
well,
then,
what is a cat
rat,
but a small jaguar?
all right, I don't even know how to respond to that. But but a rat crawls by, right? And they literally say, "Follow that rat." Like, oh my god, follow that rat. Oh man. And so they follow the rat, and they find all the dead bodies from everyone who has disappeared up to this point.
So
right?
the cats dragged them there?
Well, I think. See, the idea is like if there's like I'm not too familiar with the habits of big cats, but I believe like leopards and at least they pumas, stuff like that, mountain lions. When they kill something, they'll drag it back to its lair, right? To like eat. I think like they don't eat it out in the open; they drag it back to where its base of operations is, so to speak.
Right.
So, just trying to logic myself through this episode, this ghost cat, which I don't know why it needs a den, but has taken up a home in the sewer, and that's why all the rats leave and run away when it shows
Right.
up and drops the dead bodies off there. But if it's a ghost cat, why does it bother? Like if it's trying to avenge the stolen urn with the shaman skeleton in it, then it should just kill people. Why does it bother to drag it away to its den?
I don't know.
That was a good attempt. Answer. So Mulder, like, they hear something, right? He turns around, and you think, oh, we're going to see the jaguar now, right? We're going to see whatever. And it's the house cat. I'm like, oh.
You mean the Muppets?
Okay. Well, we're not to the
we're
Muppet
not
yet.
the Muppets
This first one is just this little orange.
Oh, yeah,
like,
this
spot,
is the fake one.
right?
This is the Jonesy scare that doesn't work.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, exactly. It looks just like, it's like they're trying to do that from Alien.
Remember that
I
time
think
in Aliens
the cat
that was
even looks
scary?
exactly the
Let's
same.
do that. Oh, it didn't work.
Oh, well, we'll try again. So, yeah, so it's like, oh, it's just a cat, right? But then, like, more cats start coming in, you know? And dozens of cats start going in. And it's interesting. So, in this episode, apparently, these cats, like, I guess they were stunt cats, if that's a thing or something, but they did not cooperate. So, they couldn't, if you notice, like, whenever you see all these cats, it's all separate from Mulder and Scully. Like, you see, like, a bunch of cats coming through, like, windows or whatever they're coming through. You see a bunch of them, like, dozens of them, like, through a fence, kind of all gathered together. But you never really see them interacting with the cats. So, and they were supposed to, like, originally, like they were supposed to attack, but they refused to attack, quote-unquote, under direction. So...
They weren't union cats, okay?
Yeah, they were like, look, it's past our time. We've been here. So, as you said, we get this terrible cat Muppet that attacks Scully.
And there is pussy flying all over the place.
Well said, sir. This is embarrassing.
Yeah, the director's just like, okay, put that thing on your hand. Shake that shit in front of the camera. It's like...
It looks like Triumph the Insult Comic Dog from Conan O'Brien. It's so cheap and so bad. Yeah. And I'm like, this is really, and this is why this episode gets such a low rating for me. It's like, look, I get you can have some bad scripts and you can try to get away with things, but this is embarrassing. Like to see them like run away from this Muppet cat and then these other cats who are just chilling. Like those cats do not give a damn. This one's just hanging out in the sewer or wherever. Like, because Mulder puts the flashlight down there and it's supposed to scare you because there's like a horde of 30 cats. But if they're just sitting there, like that doesn't scare me, you know.
So
just embarrassing.
What's better special effects? These cats or Sophie the gorilla?
Oh, Sophie the gorilla. Big time, like no question. Like because at least that I could kind of like they kind of put her in shadow and you know what I'm saying, like they did their best. And like I'm sure Kim Manners did his best here, but he hated this episode too, and I would too. I him like, oh, this is not my best work. Not gonna put this on my demo reel. But definitely Sophie. What do you think? Sophie's worse than this? No way.
I don't think Fearful Symmetry is a bad episode. I like it. I don't know.
Well, of course you do.
Hey, I don't like this one, so it's, you know, I'm not
That's
crazy.
Right. You're not completely insane. No. So, never at once, though, through any of this was I worried for Mulder and Scully. Were you?
No. was worried they'd get renewed for season 4 or not.
Well, yeah. So they, shocking, they get out. This is the climax of the episode, people. This whole, if you're gonna do all this mystery stuff the whole time, we're not gonna see a cat. What's it gonna be? Is it rats? Is it cats? Is it what? That's fine, but give us a good payoff in the climax. And this episode completely drops the ball, and that fails. They crawl up the sewer and escape, and they're fine. And that's the end of that.
And and then the urn gets sent back. Now,
well, yeah, but they find all the bodies, right? But
Yeah.
they can't find any of the cats, right? Because the next morning or whatever it is, right? Like that Mulder and Scully are talking, and they're like, "Oh, we found all the bodies, but there's no trace of the cats." And Mulder's like, "Well, it doesn't matter now. They'll probably never find them because the urn's being sent back," as you said.
right. So the urn gets sent back and it gets buried again, and then we see the shaman dude again with the cat eyes.
Yeah, that's the ultimate twist of like, is this supposed to be some kind of like, what are you saying, episode? I don't understand.
Okay, so my logic on this and what I'm thinking is that it was this shaman dude who was killing everybody the whole time.
I thought so too. But then we see the Yahe vision at the last shot of them putting dirt on the urn, and it's through the skull. Right?
You're right. Yes.
So I was with you on that. I'm like, okay, the shaman was around the whole time doing this animorph thing, right? I don't know what else to call it. But that's undercut by the fact that we see through the skull's eyes that it's being reburied through the animal vision. The other doctors had the animal vision too. So maybe it's some shared thing, like just because we saw it through the skull doesn't mean the other times it was the skull. The other times it could have been the shaman.
Yeah.
But what a confusing cluster of an end. And on top of that, don't get me wrong, there are lots of good episodes that have monologues by Mulder or Scully, but it's also a red flag on weaker episodes where they like kind of throw like a captain's log at the end, where like to try and wrap it up because there's no other way to do it,
right.
So that they have Mulder like, well, this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened, but hey, the real lesson here is not to disturb what you shouldn't, right? It's like how trite.
Yes. Right? You know what? I know what happened. I'm convinced myself, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
It was the security guard.
And he was kind of shady.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, like he was in the right place at the right time. That was a little suspicious.
He wasn't getting paid enough. They just took away his benefits, so he decided to get all crazy and kill everybody.
Well, if the X-Files was, I had it on VHS and this was like its own tape, I would go out and I would bury it. Just like they bury the urn at the end of this episode, because I have no intention on ever revisiting this episode ever again. 1 star for me, or whatever, 1 out of 10, not good. Just again, the beginning, interesting setup, but it just gets progressively worse, ends in an embarrassment, a completely falls flat in the climax, and a very confusing end. It's supposed to be some cool twist, and we can't even figure it out. Just
right, but at least we have Mark Snow's wonderful music.
So, Brandon, should we read some listener feedback from the basement?
Did anybody have anything to say about this episode?
I believe they did.
That's a surprise.
Katie Doe, for example, said, "I'm a little ashamed this takes place in Massachusetts. We deserve so much better." So there you go. There's some feedback.
I've never been to Massachusetts. Is it a good state?
It's where the Red Sox play. Boston Red Sox. That's all. I've never been to Massachusetts either. So that's what I know. I know New England Patriots, Boston Celtics. I know it for sports. That's all I know. So clam chowder.
Well, never fear. It takes place in Massachusetts, but it wasn't filmed in Massachusetts.
No. So Courtian Waters Bartley had this to say: "I get where they're going with this episode mostly, but I just don't understand how they thought the big reveal of a room full of cats was going to be all that meaningful." What about you, Brandon? Do you sympathize with this statement?
I don't get where they were going with this either, and the big reveal of the cats didn't quite work for me either. But yeah, it was such a. This episode was a mess. This episode was a mess, and yeah, I don't know. I don't quite understand where their ultimate goal was with it, but that's okay. I mean, they did. You can't have every episode be Dwayne Barry or Drive or something like that, right? Yeah. Sometimes you got to get a Teso Dos Bichos banana.
Yeah. Well, Clara Jean Cook had some problems with the authenticity of the episode. She said, "Just Google the hats. The woolly hats are completely the wrong for this tribe. Completely wrong. Typo there, Clara. That's okay, though. I'll correct it for you. Completely wrong for the for the tribe who are wearing them. The mummy is cool, but we only see her twice. She could have been used more, and the acting throughout this episode is awful. Still pretty good for comedy value, though. Oh, and the ethnic panpipe music is just painful. Yes, yes, yes. 1,000 times yes, Clara."
I don't know. I like Mark Snow's ethnic pipe music. That's like so Mark Snow to me.
It's overplayed, though. It's overplayed.
It is. I will say, though, that the hats are not the least believable or least correct thing in this episode.
Well, Dan Greer said, "Still 100 times better than Babylon or All Things. Much rather watch Killer Cats." I disagree. I think Babylon is probably the worst episode of the X-Files. But what's your take on that? Where does it rank with those two episodes, Brandon?
Oh, that is a tough call. Babylon, and what was the other one he said?
All Things.
You know, I don't remember that episode very well, so I can't claim on that one. But as far as Babylon goes, I think Babylon is probably a better episode than this, but not by much. You know, like there's some interesting stuff in Babylon. It's tone deaf and falls short. That's all that I got to say on that one.
Well, Dan explains a little bit more in All Things, which is good because neither of us remembered it that well. He said All Things is the most boring to me, at least like an X-Files episode. Even my family and friends that rewatched the series with me all wandered out into the kitchen to get snacks and socialize because the episode was just too soap opera-y, not paranormal enough, and just drags its feet forever. That never happened before or after that episode. To this day, I loathe that episode. Well, obviously, it was very forgettable because Brandon and I really don't have strong opinions about it either way. Huh?
Well, I'll only have seen it twice because I would have seen it when it aired. Mm-hmm. Actually, if it's late enough in season 7, I may. You know what? I actually didn't even see it when it aired because, I was in a government-sponsored youth program called Katimovic, and so we left in January of 2000, so I missed the back half of season 7 when it aired and didn't catch it until I bought the DVDs, and I've only actually watched that season once on DVD, so if it's late enough in the season, I have only seen the episode once.
Well, Michael Little elaborates. He says, "I can't stand All Things. Truly one of the worst hours of TV I've ever seen. Laughable." So I'll have to revisit it if it generates so much disdain from our listeners. But Michael Little also has this to say about Teso Dos Bichos. "Boring, stupid, and also racist. Thankfully, Siobhan got a lot better from here," the writer of the episode. So, Adam Silva says the lone hiccup in season 3. I would definitely say it's the worst episode of season 3. Season 3 is my favorite season, so there are not a lot of hiccups, really, and I would agree this is probably the low point.
Yeah, like I've heard a lot of people say they don't like Hell Money, but I think Hell Money's pretty good.
Hell Money's interesting. I like B.D. Wong. I was going to say, B.D. Wong alone makes it, at least average at best. So anyway.
Lucy Liu, isn't she in it too?
Lucy Liu, yes, and she has I think it's one of her first on-screen appearances, really.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
That's pretty much going to do it for our feedback. Meredith Roberts says, "I fully hope y'all can make this as hilarious as you did Excelsi's Day." So hopefully you guys had a few laughs during this episode. We tried to keep it light, keep it fun, because it was definitely not one of the more enjoyable entries in the X-Files canon. So, all right, Brandon, that was a bad episode, but it was a good time talking to you about it. So let me ask you this. Do you believe in dead shaman Native American spirits that take the form of jaguars and kill people who desecrate their graves?
I want to believe.
It's a good answer. There is a fine line between, we're kind of being facetious about it and joking about it. There is something to be said about the people who broke into, like, King Tutankhamun's burial chamber, in Egypt, yep. And, the curse of all that. Do you put any stock in that? Like, curses, I don't want to say curses, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you put any stock in those kind of situations?
I don't know. Like, I'm a Christian, and I know that the people at my church, they believe in, like, 2 of the churches I've gone to, they believe in, spirits and demons and things like this, right? And I don't know that I do myself, and so, like, I think that this would fall under that category. And so I don't think I really believe in those kinds of things myself.
Well, yeah, I believe in angels, demons, that sorts of thing. But again, I think it's a totally different category. Like to put a curse on like a tangible worldly object, and you touched it and you weren't supposed to. Like,
but okay, there's
there's
people at the last church that I went to that do believe that kind of thing. They believe that
like cursed objects.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I don't know that I do. Right? I don't think I do. I don't.
Well, I mean, even in completely getting out of my own worldview and mindset, like if these things were going to exist, I believe in them a lot more, like in like a pyramid setting, like in Egypt, than like literally a mound of dirt in Ecuador, right? Like if this had been like in a temple, like a South American temple, the more square kind of Incan or Mayan temples, that might have been cool, kind of more shades of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but they don't have those in Vancouver.
That's a very good point, Brandon. I think you just solved the mystery. So we're going to both be Scullys on this one. We're not going to believe in curses from beyond the grave.
Yeah, I do, however, believe in museums.
It belongs in a museum. Way to bring it home, Brandon. So, if people want to find you out there on the internet talking X-Files or anything else, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me driving around the streets trying to run over as many cats as I can. You can also find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. And you can find me on Trek FM hosting Warp 5, which is our Star Trek Enterprise podcast. And you can find me also on the Fandom Podcast Network with my friends Chris and Tom, where we have a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, and we discuss all of Alfred Hitchcock's films. And Zach, where can people find you when you're not trying to escape from a toilet?
Well, when I'm not slurping up Yahoo, you can find me on Twitter at MoronZach. That's MOOREONCSCH. I'm also the host of my own podcast, Always Holding to Smallville, where we talk about each and every episode of that Young Superman show. You can find us on Twitter at Always Smallville with one S. Lots of crossover between Smallville and the X-Files, locations, actors, music, as we discussed earlier. So, you'll see some familiar faces if you go check out Smallville. And you can also find me on the Trek FM network as well. I'm one of the hosts on Standard Orbit, our original series podcast. We talk about all things Captain Kirk and the Enterprise, old and new. You can find us on Twitter at Trek FM. Well, that's going to do it for us this week on the Xcast. You can find us at the X_cast on Twitter or the Xcast on Facebook. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and join the X-Files down here in the basement with the rest of the FBI's most unwanted. And remember, until next time,
the cats are out there.
Trust no cats.
The Xcast, an X-Files podcast, is produced and presented by Tony Black, alongside a dedicated group of podcasters and X-Files fans. You can find us on Twitter at the Xcast, and on Facebook if you type in the Xcast, or at our group X-Files Basement, an Xcast podcast fan group, where you can continue the discussion about all things Mulder and Scully. If you want to support the Xcast further, you can now subscribe and become a patron of the show on Patreon. On Google, just type patreon.com/the Xcast. That's Patreon. You'll see all of our tiers, subscription options and perks, which include early access to episodes, bonus content such as commentaries on X-Files episodes, access to a patron chat zone, and even appearing on one of our patron roundtable discussions. We would appreciate any support you can give the show, so just go to patreon.com/the Xcast to find out more. Our title music is provided courtesy of Will A, who you can find on Twitter at IamWillAYE.